Look, it's PTA, you know it's going to be high quality, but the moment in the movie where I cheered the loudest was when they said the title.
He said it! He said it!
You cheeky bastards.
Rise and shine.
Pat an eyelash.
Good morning.
There are no hands on the clock.
Why?
So what is this movie? Paul Thomas Anderson, obviously. When Colonel Lockjaw resurfaces after 16 years, a group of ex-revolutionaries reunite to rescue one of their own's daughter. Leonardo Dicaprio is Bob, Benicio Del Toro, and Regina Hall are in this movie not as much as I anticipated. Tiana Taylor and Chase Infinity. Let's start with the performances. You know Leo's going to be good. One thing I love about this film is that it's kind of giving him free range to not only be a little over the top because of how this movie, a darkly comedic, satirical take on an obviously very political situation that also leans into being an action movie. There's a lot in terms of the genre here, but Leo, he's just having a blast. You can see it and feel it on screen. I loved watching him in this film because he's an ex-revolutionary, but he's also a guy that just, frankly, I mean, he's got to get his shit together.
Language.
And he says in the movie, like, he's trying to be the dad. That's probably the hardest part of his life right now. And this dude is running from the feds, but he's trying to be a dad. He's also a guy who loves alcohol and drugs, and he says that he's like, my brain has been fried from all of this stuff. And there's a reoccurring gag in this film where he can't remember something to say. It's a phrase, and it's very important when dealing with the group that you're dealing with, but he just can't get it out. Part of me is like, this could become stale after a while, but it never is. It was funny every single time, and I was laughing at this movie far more than I anticipated. It is so funny with how it handles its characters and even certain situations. Sean Penn's character, obviously, I mean, he's not walking around killing people like our villain from No Country for Old Men, but he's very menacing with how he plays really everything, right? The situation that he's in, which he created, he inflicted on himself because he is a hypocrite, but also the man that he is and wants to become, conflicting with his past. And so you have a lot of people who are dealing with the ramifications of their past in this film. It takes a little bit to kind of build that up. The first act, well, the first 30 minutes before Willa comes into the picture, because the moment Willa comes in, I'm like, oh no, I am loving this movie. I'm loving the pacing of it, how frantic, the energy, and how it kind of kicks into gear and gets us into that final 45 minutes, which is one big series, but really one big action sequence and a car chase specifically with numerous cars. So a multiple car chase, but it was so expertly handled and filmed, and PTA, man, you know, if you're a fan of Paul Thomas Anderson, you know what he's going to bring to this film cinematically, with VistaVision, with how it's going to play on IMAX screens, I'm sure. I watched this in RPX, so I'll have to go see it in IMAX. But PTA, man, it's such effortless direction. I mean, just the look, you know it's a movie that he directed just by looking at it, but it's so beautiful in that way, the way it approaches our characters. Lots of close-ups. I mean, you could see the pores of the individuals' faces in this movie at times, specifically when we're focusing on like a Sean Penn or even Willa at times. And I love the perspective of how everyone is approaching numerous situations. I mean, it's not just one small fight. It's a series of fights that they are tackling. And yes, we're going to make those political comparisons. We're going to talk about the relevancy, all of that. But just the entertainment factor. And I think that's the fear some people have is, obviously there's a group of people here that don't want to be slapped in the face politically if what happens at this movie is something that they stand against. And I can resonate with that idea. Like, I don't want a movie to be so far one side that it kind of leaves out, it blackballs a specific audience. And of course, those who agree with this movie are going to like it. And that was my fear with these initial reactions and reviews. It's like the headline is saying, well, it's a political stance. And I'm like, okay, fine. But how is the movie? Like, that's fine. Is the movie good? Like, I want to know if the movie's good. That's what a movie critic is all about. Yeah, it's relevant to the film itself, but that obviously doesn't dictate whether the movie is good or not. But the movie itself, thankfully, is good. And I think the quality is hopefully going to bring some people in that wouldn't be on the side of the film. Because yes, the movie does take a stance, absolutely. But it also plays on certain things and really the approach of our characters and kind of shifts Willa to the forefront, a girl who is just stuck in this awful situation. I'm not going to say what that is because it kind of becomes the main focus of the movie, and I would regard that as a spoiler, so I'm not going to say what, but you really start to resonate with her, and just she's trapped and is trying to figure out, how do I deal with this emotionally with these revelations that are coming to light regarding the things that are prominent and important. I won't go any deeper than that. It's also pointing out flaws in their approach. I mean, they are revolutionaries, but clearly Leo is not a very successful person, and so it takes an approach on things that definitely leans to one side, 100%, absolutely, but it also kind of shows the good and bad of every situation that we're seeing on screen, except for Sean Penn. There's not really any good that comes from Sean Penn in this movie. Very bad dude in a very bad organization, again, got himself in the position that he's in this film. But then you've got Leonardo DiCaprio, who is going up against the system, which is an idea that has, we've seen from generation to generation. This is based on a book. We'll talk about that book here in just a second. Viva la Revolution, man. He says it, but he handles it with violence. We're going in with guns. We're attacking. We're shooting. And so obviously, that's not the way you handle things. And so these are very flawed characters and individuals, and they stand for something absolutely, but it's the way that PTA kind of approaches everything this movie is doing and saying, yes, taking a side, but also with the same idea that other directions. I mean, Scorsese has directed numerous gangster films, mob movies. Our main characters are, using violence to get certain things in certain ways. Like, you don't always have to agree with the methodology of the character, but it's really the way these characters are written, and this young girl who is just trying to learn the ins and outs of the situation that she is placed in, and she's thinking her dad's like a loon, not letting her have a cell phone, what's this all about? But then when her life is in jeopardy and she's on the run, that's when the stakes start to get so much higher. And so my approach here is just, I want everyone to give this movie a chance. It is, yes, extremely relevant to what's happening right now, and I like it or not, I think that's going to push it to being the front runner for Best Picture. But just from a quality standpoint, this movie is truly worth it because it keeps you on the edge of your seat this entire time. And if you're thinking, PTA is just trying to shun me as an audience member. Well, recently in an interview talking about what happened to Charlie Kirk, he said it's a horrible murder. I don't think we can bring it back to my film, an action comedy very far from reality. I'm just trying to sell tickets for a fiction movie. And so even he says, I don't want this to be a commentary on the tragedy that just happened there, even though it definitely is a commentary on other things happening that are very relevant. And so this idea that we see in the book Vineland, a book that I haven't read, but that book set in the 1980s explores the fallout of radical activism in the United States. And what PTA was trying to do is to bring that into the now. Unfortunately, history does repeat itself, and it's continuing to repeat itself. And so I think PTA's mindset was, I'm going to take these ideas, include that father-daughter dynamic, and talk about the cost of resistance, which is allegedly what that book is all about. And PTA really deals with the cost of what happens when you go up against the oppressive government, which is what we see in this film. And I really appreciate how that is handled with all of the characters, the roles that they play, but at the same time, playing a lot of it for comedy. I mean, this is a very satirical-like movie. In the vein of Eddington, we just saw a film, handle, COVID, pandemic, all of that, but a movie that goes far beyond that and starts to hit on other things that have kind of recently been prominent in everyday life, and that's a movie that's becoming more relevant by the day. But again, these films, they were written 2+ years ago, and so you can't really blame PTA for the climate right now when this movie was made prior to that. I've seen that as well, people trying to blame Paul Thomas Anderson. I'm just like, guys, come on.
You really pissed me off.
I think the word to use here is chaos. It invokes this chaotic energy that only PTA, a director of his status, could capture and never let it go all over the place, because this film very easily could have lost focus on the ultimate goal, or on where we were all going to meet in that third act. And it gets us there in a fiery way, but you're also still feeling empathy and tenderness towards these characters. It's really kind of a father-daughter story. It's a father who's going after his daughter. That is at the core, that's where you feel empathetic for these characters. And that's where I think the writing is actually the strongest, because you have Leo's character who's been through all of this, all of these insane missions and where he got his nickname and risked his life numerous times. But being a father proves to be the toughest task. And that's what I think this film, I wasn't expecting that from the trailers. And I told you guys, I wasn't the biggest fan of the initial trailer. I went into this a little hesitant, but I walked out thinking there is so much that this movie offers and a lot that many people aren't going to like. But if you look at it through a certain lens and you see this comedic, satirical take on certain things and how it points out the good and bad of a lot of situations and how chaotic this energy that it has from start to finish is. Editing, sound design, the score that at first I'm like, this score, people said it was memorable and wasn't very memorable, but it just kept going and it's upbeat in these tense situations. And by the end of the film, I'm thinking, nope, the score was pretty awesome. I loved it. I didn't think I would at the start, and then by the end, I'm thinking, no, this is great. So how did you feel about one battle after another? As someone who was going in a little hesitant, I just thought it was brilliantly made, like spectacularly put together. And so all of my worries, well, I wasn't really feeling them by the end of the film. And again, I know some of you are thinking, Austin, why'd you have to dive into politics? Well, that's what the movie's about. And I'm trying to get it to where everyone wants to go see this movie, not just one side. I want everyone to experience it. Maybe they'll loathe it, or maybe they'll appreciate it.
Maybe.
If you enjoyed this review, drop a like, share it, hit the hype button. One battle after another is enthralling, delivering a relentless and action-fueled experience that never lets up until the final frame. Every performance is fantastic, while Penn's lockjaw steals his moments through sheer menace. The film is occasionally frightening, but maintains balance with a wickedly comedic edge, especially with Leo, who is reveling in his role's unhinged charm. It exudes chaotic and politically charged energy, but never lets its father-daughter story get lost along the way. I have this very prominently ahead of a lot of movies in my Best Picture race. I will elaborate on that this weekend with my first of the year Oscar predictions video. I'm talking Best Picture, and one battle after another will be on there. So subscribe for that video. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you all, and I'm sure the comments will be very chill. Okay, bye-bye.